Carol here. Warm welcome to my craft room. Well, I think I'm going to get this up today. But I have a feeling right here I didn't have all my lights on because I see some shadows. I apologize for that. I'm going to use the I Heart You stamp set by Penny Black. Absolutely beautiful set. And as you know, I like to use my older products. I'm using InkTense pencils and Copics combined. Now, don't get too worried here. I'll show you what you have to do if you want to use InkTense pencils. This is my sharpener, my electric sharpener. Yeah, I love to have that handy because I like my pencils nice and sharp. This is the set I use from Fiskars, the one underneath there. And these are just from Michael's. And you can use those photopolymer stamps also. And here is the Desert Storm paper from Ellen Hudson. I'm using that, and a lot of people call this craft, but I got out some of my cards that are actual craft colored, and look at the difference. It is like a sand. That's why they call it desert sand, I guess. It's like a sand color, and these are smaller than an A2 size envelope. I buy the Post-it paper so that it's all sticky through 8.5 by 11 sheets so I can cut it off because we are going to do some masking. I'm going to use the Tim Holtz platform, and I want to say I love that platform. Even though I have 3 of the Misties in all different sizes, I love this, and I'll show you why, especially for doing videos or if you're on the fly and you quickly want to stamp and press. So here it doesn't matter. I'm making my masks on the Post-it. I'm using Simon Says. Hello. Yes, love that little dog, don't you? And here I go. Every time you see me pop up in my chair, it's because I had to go get a supply and go back and sit down. But I'm using Simon Says Intense Black, and I'm using my favorite things, and it's a plum color. I will get you that, and I'll load it. I'm finally getting around to having some alone time in my house, and that's why I'm starting to do this edit. I hope I get it finished before everybody gets back. And the everybody is my husband. My daughter-in-law was here today. So anywho, yes, I'm stamping this. Yeah, I'm a stickler for cleaning in between. And I do apologize for that. Yes, it's a must to get it off your nail polish, isn't it? Yeah, I forgot what I got it out for, and that was to clean the platform. I don't want anything by mistake with me pushing down to get everywhere. Excuse me. So here we go. We're just going to press this down. I hold it for a little bit, you know, just to make sure. And I don't know why, because when I go to fussy cut this, it's not going to make any difference whether I have every single line on there. But I still like it. I like to see a nice image when I go to fussy cut. And here, this is the reason I love the platform. You get to take the lid out, turn it around so that I can see it. And here's my really pointy fussy cut scissors, the stork scissors I got at Michael's. And they're costly a little bit, but use your coupon and they're really reasonable. And then these are my, I think they're Fiskars scissors. So once I get that cut out, yes, we're on our way to a few techniques I think you're going to love. Hope this finds everybody doing well. I really, yeah, he's cleaning up the spot for me to put my masks down. This is cut to exactly 5.5 by 4.25 inch. Can you believe it? I'm not used to working on cards this small, but I said I'm going to do Carol's Clean and Simple cards, my version of it. And when I do images like this that has the hair that's just like strings, you know, coming out, you don't need that on a mask, because unless you want a full space left underneath, you want to take it off. So anything that's hair shaped in the strands, I remove. And then if I want to stamp over it, of course. And I didn't know exactly what the setup was, so I took it off. I think I turn it around here so that that right page, that right image stamp, excuse me, is going to be on the left. And then I got out my skin tones, but let's be reminded that this is Desert Storm paper. It's a mid-tone, so to speak. So you're not going to get a genuine color with anything you color on it. It will not be a genuine color like you would get off white cardstock. But there is a way to get around it, and there is a way to make your colors really vibrant with using Desert Storm. I noticed on some videos I've been watching lately, like Sandy L. Knox and a few other people that I watch have been using this paper, and I've been loving watching people color. I'm just amazed at all the talent out there. And here's the Hero Arts trick. Yeah, hello. I guess you're just wanting to say hi. Here I'm using this tree stamp, having a sip of my tea, you know, Canadian Tetley tea. I put my platform lid in, and then I can zoom out for you. Oh, yes. And then we're going to get started stamping. So like I said, I love this platform for the sake of taking the lid out, turning it around, and pressing the image down. Now I want a tree right there. I want it to take up space. I got out my Hero Arts tri-colored inks. I'm going to use these 4. And like I said, I'm going to try to get on my blog. It's just a time issue, but I want to mention the supplies and colors I use, so I will try and get these out there for you. I wanted to use different colors on this so that I don't know, I had a little bit of color in the background. And when you're using Desert Storm, I find you have to use colors with more pigment in them. Otherwise, you won't get a type of color you're putting down. You know, a light color will go light, if not disappear. So here I'm taking they're kind of like different sized dots. That's how I have to describe it. And I'm placing them on there. Now, this ink, whether you use a hybrid, dye ink, and if you stamp off on this platform, you better run quickly and get your alcohol wipes, because that's the only thing that's going to take it off the platform. And I like my stuff clean. There it is. I buy those disposable packages, you know, the little packs, and it's nice and clean. Don't leave it too long. It will come perfect if you get to it right away with an alcohol wipe. Now I'm going to put these away. I'm just quickly showing you all the colors I used on the tree. I love these ombre colors. You can use there's 3 colors. You can use each panel of them separately or hone them together to get an ombre effect. Really nice inks. I like using them, and I'm just putting my Post-it note masks back onto the plastic so that I can use them again and again. And when you buy the 8.5 by 11 Post-it paper, it's not as sticky as you think. It's kind of in between a Post-it note and sticky. It's in the middle, and I like using them. I don't try to take off too much of the sticky because I like it to lay flat. And here, some time ago when I first started stamping, I took all of my punches and punched down a lot of tags and put them in sandwich bags. So every time I wanted to make a tag or I needed some spare paper that was close enough to the cardstock I used, I would take this out and use it either to blot off or to make a tag. It's right down to a 1/4 inch tags right up to the 2 and 3 inch sizes. And they're all color coded to the colors that I have in my stash. So here we go. I have the blobs of ink that we put down, and now I'm going to, it's not every blob that I'm making a heart, but I am taking the InkTense pencil and I'm over the bigger blobs now that went down, the blob stamps that form a tree. I'm going to make hearts because this is a heart card to a friend if you wanted to send it to a friend. And this applies to any time of year, not just this time of year. You want to send a thank you note or a I appreciate your friendship note. I thought this would be really cute. And it's going to be rather clean and simple. because this is 5.5 by 4.25. I am going to have to build it out, which ends up to be 5. When I cut it down, I'll measure that. I'm not quite sure here, but we do put a border on it. So as I go across, I'm using all different colors, kind of mixing it up there to the same colors that I have, as you can see. And I love the InkTense. And now we're not going to apply any water. And the one thing about InkTense, you know, when you wet it or you spray it and it dries, it's going nowhere. You're not going to be able to move it. You're not going to be able to smudge it. It is on there. It's just taking that cardstock and making a friend out of it. It's staying there. it's there for life, and I love that. But you know, it's a beautiful coloring medium. If you have InkTense pencils and you want to move out of your Prisma or your polychromos, grab your InkTense and don't add water. But you can, I'll show you what I do with my Copics. Now, here I'm just adding more red dots because I'm going to use a lot of red combos with my markers. So I want to make sure that I have the hearts filled in that I made, you know, with the InkTense pencils. And then, you know, add a few hearts where I think I kind of wanted to make it look like the wind was coming from the left and whoosh, blowing over to the, yeah, whoosh, oh man, it just, yeah, some leaves must have got on his fur. So here's the Copics. You can stop it, but I'm going to put the colors that I use right on top there. So this is a YR30. It is super light. You can see that the Y is the yellow with a red tone in the back. 3 is the opaqueness, how much opacity it has in it, and the 1 is the color, which the 1 number is very, very light. And here's the YR15. 1 meaning it's very saturated with color, and the 5, it's midway from the 0 to 9. So you're getting a mid-tone, like a mid-shade. Let's go there. Your value is halfway. So now we're talking about a 0.8 in the earth tone. So 0, very, very saturated, and the 8, we're going up there with a lot of vivid color value. So I'm not going to explain it every time I put one down, but the YR31, we're moving down in saturation but up in color. And this is these are the shades that I use to make red tones. But I generally stick to the same family, but being we're working on this Desert Storm, I had to jump here and there to make it look an orange red. I'm going again with an earth tone, very saturated with color because it's a 0, and the 9 here that we see is a deep, like the higher the number, the darker the color. So that earth tone is very dark. The same as this one, I'm jumping down to a 7. So, you know, on the scale of 1 to 9, 7 has a lot of value or shade to it, a lot of color. But yet the 3, it's got about, you know, 3 amounts of saturation in it. We're not fully saturated with pure color. It kind of goes to the gray tones, kind of grayed out. But anyway, yes, so this is my red head. And when you see my hand come up like that, I'm sharpening the pencil. So I like to stick with different shades of the orange red. Here's the 2 that I'm putting in there. It's kind of a sienna color and a bright yellow. Excuse me. So once again, I'm jumping in. I had to speed this up because there's so much in it. And I'm using earth tones here to capture the face. You can see that it's going to really lighten up. The 4-0, we're jumping in there, and I kind of walk away for a bit each time I go to color. And if I see that I want to add something, now when I'm using the Derwent pencils here, I'm going in little tiny circles. I'm not flicking at all. I'm going in tiny, tiny circles, and that will give you a wonderful effect. Not because it keeps you in one place. To lighten it up here, because I want to use a darker tone of red, I'll just lighten the nose up. It'll give me a little bit of ghosting, and at the same time give me some vibrant color. So I like to do the undertone in a white, and you'll see how pretty it looks. And here's the YR3 one, and it's kind of like that real yellow, and I don't want the face to look like that, so that's why the white comes in handy. I'll tone it down with some reds. This is a navy. I'll put some violet in there, and I'll work with the colors, the different style colors that aren't going to get sucked up into the paper like the Copics are. I'll use my darker tones in pencil instead of using them as you know, a saturated Copic where it's going to go in. Now, every time I work my Copics, because just because I have like a full collection of them and I have all of them, I don't want to wreck one. I don't want to have to rebuy one or the tips. So right there, I have a sheet close enough to the color I'm working on, and I immediately wipe it down. And if you do this, you can use the InkTense. I must have used 50 Copics with the InkTense pencils, and I, you know, wiped it onto the paper right after I was finished. I have 2 sheets of paper, one to the right and one there on the upper left. And right away, when I touch that, yes, oh yeah, help me get that all off. So right away, you want to flick that color off the end of your Copic and you will be fine. And this gives you a watercolor look. The InkTense with the Copic, moving it around, gives you the effect of blooming. It will bloom out. And I'll show you on the cheeks what I'm talking about. I will lay a base with this RV00. And then when I touch it with the pink InkTense pencil, it's going to bloom because I'm going to wet it. Here I'm just letting it sit and dry. I'm not ready for the bloom yet. But if you want to do anything that will bloom and look like watercolor, just grab, here I'm putting an undertone before I add the red to the cheeks. Here's the sienna red that I'm using here. Then I'm going to touch it with my Copic and kind of like set it in there, and then it's going to bloom with the E42. Just watch it here. It'll just start blooming out into a round Copic color, and get the ends of the, I can't stress it enough to take the InkTense ink off the end of your Copics. Now, it worked for me. I'm not telling you to do this. Here's the E79. The 7, it is going up in color, so it's less pure, but the color of it in shade or value is dark. This is a dark, dark earth tone I'm using for the roots. Now you have to remember that when you're doing children's hair, you don't want a lot of colors going through it. Like you can have, like I don't want it all in one area. I want to make it look like they're separated because they don't go to the hairdressers, children that I know of at this young age to get highlights. So we're only working with the sun flicking through the separated hairs. And that's how I want it to look. So I'll add some Copic multiliner. There's some of the colors that I use. I range it from, oh, there we go. You can stop it right here. And I'm going to go on to the clothing, and I'm going to use the greens. The G17, G40, G19, and the YG there. Came off kind of quickly. So you can just stop it if you like the color I end up with. But because I'm going back and forth and I use so many InkTense pencils, I didn't have time to write every color. But you want to grab 3 or 4 in, you know, working your way up to a mid-tone, down, excuse me. I've had this little bit of a sore throat. You want to work with a light, medium, and dark, so you can look at the ends. And then I like to add navy or violet or a deep brown for the shading in any of my colors, just to get in the corner nooks. So you might see me jump in there with a deep navy or a deep burgundy to get in, and then I'll add some light color over top. Now here I want to make sure that I'm flicking that color off my Copic nib. I don't want to recommend this for people to do it, but it worked for me. I don't have one mark on any of my Copic markers. If I had any on there, believe you me, I would have switched to Prisma pencils, but I didn't. I'm going to put music on while I did this, but you know, I really like talking through some things just to share with you, you know, my method of madness when I'm coloring. I'm really enjoying doing some colorful images and stamping them out and coloring. I haven't done that for a while because I love to die cut as well, you know, work with different die cuts and to use different techniques with them and try and find projects that are a little different, you know, not challenging, just different. My cards are quite simplistic. They're nothing that, you know, I don't put up anything I don't think somebody else can do, because I always say, if I can do it, you can do it, and we can work together and get it accomplished. If you ever have any questions, you know you're free to leave me a comment. And here, when I'm working with the InkTense, I'm going so lightly, it's barely touching that cardstock. It really is barely touching, unless I want to do shading. If I want to get in the nooks and crevices, I press a little darker. Now I'm going to put some little dots on there with my Uniball white gel pen. This is the broad tip. And I wanted to make it dots. Excuse me. And then I do apologize. I've had a real bad sore throat. So I figured whether I voice over this now or I do it tomorrow, I think I'm going to sound the same. So I wanted the sleeves and the one section to be all dots. And then I stopped and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do the undershade here in stripes. And I'm going to do the front of the blouse in stripes, horizontal. Kind of give it a funky little look. And I like that. I like to play around when I color. Coloring is all about relaxation, isn't it? It's about fun, creating, trying to find different ways to use what we have in our stash. And here goes the stripes. I don't know. It just kind of looked really cute to me. And I have a redhead granddaughter, kind of the auburn red, not the real red. And it looks, you know, just like that, kind of. So now I'm adding more branches. That's what I was doing there. I'll use my Copic marker and I'll use the InkTense to grab some of the deep colors. So I have 3 little shades in there. Then I'm going to jump over to the reds. I love the red family. Now, you have to be very careful. I'm really, I did not use any embossing powder on this. So if I go out of the lines, I'm going to be in big trouble. It's the R24. This is my combo that I use generally. This is the R59, the darker. You want to put a V, and on the upper right-hand side, just, you know, zigzag some dark there. Excuse me. I'm going to go to a mid-tone, which I'll use my R56, and I'll kind of add a little bit of brightness to the top of that dark tone that I put on there, the dark shade. Then I'm going to go back to the R08. R07 works well too. And it's kind of like an orange red. And then the red violet 69, I always grab. It looks beautiful when you're making, when you want to have that bubble look, you know, where it looks like a balloon or something with some depth and some dimension. I go back to that kind of orange red. And now I'll just flick in the right-hand side like I showed you before, the R37. I go back to the 59, and then I'm going to add just the little curves in there to make it look like a tight balloon kind of pulled back, and you get that white look. I love this. I go through all the little hearts on the tree and add a little bit of white. But then what I'm going to do with these, I thought of leaving them plain like this, but it had those round circles in it. So, yeah, I'm working kind of fast there. But I want to put a little bit of white. I end up taking out quite a bit of white. You'll see at the end in the pictures. I don't want it to look like snow, but I do want it to look a bit shadowed. So I'll apply that, and then I'll put some real dark gray in its place in spots, and that'll look super cute. And now I'm going to move on to the grass. I want to put some grass on there. Oh, I'm going to add the 0.1 Copic multi-liner. You can use any multi-liner as long as it's Copic friendly. I'm going to add some little spots in the hair that I want to have more lines on there. And I'm going to put some grass. But what I did was I took a dark gray to add some of the shadow under the feet. Under the dress of the left girl there, you'll see a swoop coming up from the heart there. But I know it's going to move with my Copic later on. So I'll add a little bit of water right here to tone it down. And then when that dries, I'm going to come back and we're going to cover it with the Copic. And you'll really like the effect on that. Gives a beautiful shaded look underneath the dress and the feet. The foot that's lifted up there. And under the dress on the other side. Excuse me, I'll show you that in a little bit. So the same tones that I used on the grass there, there's the G14, and I go with another dark tone. And I like to make the inside of the bows a little darker, so I use a 1-7, 7 meaning it is, you know, a nice dark value. A 1, it has super saturation. And here we go. I actually started this out in a salmon color for the middle. I knew I was going to use red and purples, so you're kind of on the edge of not wanting to use pink and red, but because I have a lot of red there in the balloons, the balloon hearts, and right here I want to make sure I'm going the tiniest strokes you've ever seen and as light as can be, because I will add, even on this little blouse and the sleeve, I will go over it 4 or 5 times in little tiny circles. I'm going to add the little dots because it has dots in the dress, and I think it did, or I just added them, you never know. And I'm trying to whiten up the lines because what happens is if it's not dry, it'll go pink. But we'll remedy that towards the end of the video, and I'll show you what to use to make it look vibrant white. Now I'm going to go around with the white pencil, the InkTense pencil, and I think you see it better here. I'm going to add underneath, I want to go to a dark color underneath where the sun isn't hitting that. So I will add some white. Her arm's kind of sticking out into the sun as she's holding this balloon. That's how I picture it. So I want to add some very light value underneath there instead of dark shading. And now that see how that gray looks a little better on the shadow when we use some water to the InkTense pencil underneath her foot and some of the, underneath the tree and a few of the hearts, but mainly underneath the tree because you are going to have shade there. So your placement of that, it doesn't have to be dark, just a little bit of value on there and it'll look super duper. Now I'm going back and darkening up the crevices, the creases, the bend in the arm, the bend in the foot, imaginary crinkles and wrinkles you want to put in there. You can add dark value. And here I'm going to put dots on, of course, on her bow. So crazy cute, isn't it? And this is going to give me just so much cuteness, and it'll take out any shading that you didn't get right. If you're not satisfied with your blend, add some dots with your pen. And look, I wanted to show you the mess on my desk here. Oh yeah. This is just the start of everything that I put my pencils away because it's right there. I didn't have to put them, but I didn't want to, keep going to my left and putting them all away in different color boxes that I have over there. So let's move forward. And I hope you don't mind I didn't speed it up. Here's some Nouveau black I'm putting on the eyes to bring them up. Then I use the black Copic multi-liner for the nose and the little mouth to bring that up. There we go. And you'll see in the pictures what I talked about, the blooming on the cheeks. It's subtle, but you know what? It's there. And I'm all about detail. I love detail. And I wanted to have brown blonde hair on the second one. Kind of a black brown with some blonde undertone. And so that's what I'm going to do there. I'm adding some Copic here. So I have a piece of paper that I'm flicking that InkTense pencil off immediately and not waiting 1 second as I'm adding the color to her purse. There's hearts in the purse, so that's what I was trying to color in. Then I'll outline them with an InkTense pencil to make them a little more vivid. And here I decided to put some black Nouveau drops now on those dots. And then after it, right there, after it dries, I'm going to add the crystal glaze, the Nouveau crystal glaze, and it looks so, it just looks like you blew it up and put it on that page. That's how much fun I have. I even have more fun when I'm editing because as I'm watching it, I'm recalling how much fun it was to color, you know. Okay, I've settled down now. I took this piece of cardstock right here, I cut it out like a cloud, and it's nice and thick, and I was going to take my Copic air compressor and hook it up the end to a Copic marker and make some little clouds. But I decided against it. I wanted to have some of that beautiful Desert Storm cardstock looking up at us. I think it really added to the page. I didn't want to add any more elements. I have 3 major elements, which is an odd number. I have the 2 girls and the tree. So I didn't want to do a 4th element for some reason. So here I'm taking the Crystal Glaze by Nouveau. Love this because it dries so quickly. And I needed to add a good portion of it because we put the Nouveau black dotted stuff. Nouveau drops. Yes, let's get it down. And now I'm just getting back up because I went to get these. I wasn't sure I was going to use these elements, but then I found this Friends sentiment set I bought when I first started creating about 5 years ago. I mean, I don't get rid of anything. And it has everything related to Friends, and I love the different fonts in it. So I slowed it down to normal right here because I'm going to show you a close-up of the actual card. Just getting right up there so you could see how beautiful that heart balloon, both in her hand and on the string, looks. I mean, every element. And then if you can see in the tree, I punched out some pink hearts to match the pink tone in there, like a reddish kind of, I can't even say pink. It's from Simon Says Stamp, their glitter 8x8 cardstock, I think it is. Could be 6x6, but anyway, I punched out some little hearts and I put it in the tree. So you get some glitter in the tree. I'm not sure if it's on there now, or I do it later, but I picked out a beautiful font, like a playful font. And here are the gorgeous 6x6, that's what they are, the glitter paper. And I go through it, setting down on each one just to see how it looks, because she does have purple in the clothing, but nothing compared to the red that's up there. I mean, it just, wow. It has a wow factor, that beautiful ruby red. I love it. So I made a little check mark with my scissors there where I have to cut it. And then we're going to go ahead. Oh yes, here we go. I'm adding the little hearts I punched out, and they're really small. But I thought it needed a little bit of glitter in the tree to go with all of the other elements that we had put on. And I'm sorry. There we go. I'm switching it up. Somebody must have sent me an email. I apologize for that. And I want to just keep going here while I have time to do the voiceover. So I'm setting it down. Now I want you to watch this. It right on the right hand side, it was not level at all, and I could eyeball and know that. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll stamp it first on this white cardstock. And then it hit me, Carol, you have a piece of acetate that I cut off 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I keep it on the platform in case I ever have to practice. I thought, why not get it out? So I grabbed it. It was right underneath there, and I set it just up in the corner. It's the exact size of this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, And then I'm going to, right here, I'm going to practice with it, with the Simon Says stamp. There it is. I already put it on. And this will tell you your alignment. And you won't, you know, mess up your page because all the words go on one stamp. It's different if you have individual stamps too to place it. But here, I knew right there it had to come down just a bit by looking at the acetate. And then I'll lift up the acetate, I'll wipe that off. There we go. I'll take it off first because I know I'm going to put it on the other side and give it a, you know, a check and see if it's aligned. And it was perfect. Look at that. All the way across. So I took off my, see how it went up just a bit on that first one. So I wiped the acetate off. And this stays inside the platform with one of my magnets on top. So I can always practice sentiment. You can practice it on anything. It doesn't have to be an A2 size card in there. Just wherever you're going to put your sentiment, just to be on the safe side. I can't even imagine having to stamp it and it be crooked at this point, you know, when you've gone to all this work. I'll press it down and quickly put it into my clear embossing powder. I want it to shine like the balloon. So I have it in this Tupperware container. And see how nice it is just to stamp over it and get a nice crisp black sentiment there. I was really happy. And that's just about how quick, even though I sped this up, that's how quick I had to run it over to the embossing powder. And there you have it. Didn't that, and you have to be careful there, you don't want to burn the Nouveau glaze on that balloon, so just be careful with your hot air. And isn't that font playful? It's so crazy cute. Love the ruby red glitter. And now I'm not wasting any of it. Are you kidding me? So I took this double stitch die. I knew I had enough room to put that on, so I put it through the die cutting machine like this. I will get two elements. I'll get the guts on the inside and I'll also get the frame. And then I'll get the outside piece to put behind my card. Bonus. Let me say that again. Super, super bonus. Yes, I am very frugal with things that I love, you know. And there you have it. You can. I was just showing you can do it with any die. Just make sure you know, cut off as much as you can to save it. Especially with this. Now I was going to do Friends, my Friends die cut, but it wasn't enough to cut out in, there was enough in length, but not in depth. So I put all that away. I mean, wow. And then I would just put some Nouveau, any type of liquid glue that's nice, you know, that will form on that glitter. Even though it's not a crumble glitter, it's nice and smooth. You want to have something that really is going to stick, that you're confident it's a good liquid glue. Then I have this roll I keep separate. It just has a little bit of the paper towels on it so that I can roll it out like dough and flatten out anything like this. I just keep it to the left-hand side of my workspace and I use it as a roller, just like that. Works nice and quick to sop up anything. Here I bought all these colors, so many colors, but of the foam, I'm taking a little sip of my Coca-Cola I snuck in there. This is brown craft foam. And you peel off the back, which I love because I only have to glue down one. I measure it out so that I get just a tiny 1/16 of an inch around it. I like my edges to be really, you know, almost out there, only with a tiny portion showing, and this foam is wonderful. I got a great big pack at Walmart and I like it because you can peel back the entire piece of foam, and then all I have to do is use my ATG gun over top to seat it on a card base. And there you have it. I don't want too much sparkle. I just thought I cut off enough. So here I'm making my own card base out of the paper here. It's just a craft cardstock that I had. I didn't want it, I didn't want it in the Desert Storm because it's not thick enough for me, like, you know, to have the thickness I always like. But I tell you what, it was beautiful. So now I added is it a half an inch? Yes, a half an inch gusset, you know, just going down my scoreboard, growing a flower, of course. I had time to grow a flower in between here. And now I'll make my own card base out of the color that I wanted. Look at that. The same distance around the edge as I have in the actual piece I'm going to seat on top of my card base. I'll cut this 1/16 of an inch tape that I put 2 on, grab a knife there to peel it back, and I have my own craft cardstock. Isn't that sweet? It's just, let me see, 6 1/8 by 4 3/4. And then I put my cardstock with a little bit of sparkle glitter around it. Didn't waste anything. It's lifted up just enough. I go over it with my Memento black marker, and so that the edges are dark. And the foam with your ATG gun runs perfectly. I use the 1/2 inch ATG. You can see how nice that is. And I buy the gold. Now that side I needed to go over it a little bit more because it wasn't sticking, but it did eventually. Look at that stick on there. I mean, it really does stick. And then I usually on here, there, I'm just showing you, these are not the gold brand. These are the normal brand here for your quarter inch ATG. I have I have 2 of them. And I have the 1/2 inch. But I have the 2 of them because one of them I got for $5 on a clearance rack, so I had to do it. That way, when one runs out, I grab the other one. I don't want to have to stop in between a project. And I always add liquid glue too. If I'm worried about it moving or lifting because it's foam, I'll add liquid glue with it. And then I'll go around with the micro brush like I always do to make sure no glue is going to protrude out from the edges. See that? The foam piece is the identical color of the cardstock. Isn't that awesome? And I cut them all out to be 6 by 8 pieces when I bring the foam home. And then I keep them, you know, in color order so I can just grab one quickly. And there you have it. So I want to put the inside for writing my sentiment. That's what I'm starting now. Whew. If you're still with me, I tell you what, a great big huge thank you. So I'm cutting this out just to seat a 1/16 of an inch around the edges, and we're going to decorate the inside of the card. Now, let me warn you here, you could do the inside of my card, you could do as 2 cards if you wanted. You know I always go overboard. I can't help myself. Because it's a smaller, clean and simple card for me, I thought it would be fun to just put the same images on the inside and reverse them. So the balloon girl's on the left and the other girl holding the heart is on the right, just opposite. I'm not going to go too crazy with what I'm doing here. I'm still using the Simon Says ink and yeah, Intense Black, I think it's called. And then I take my Copic 0.1 multi-liner and I'm going to, whatever little pieces I want to be really black, I'm going to fill it in. And then I'm not going to color much on this. Whew. You're thinking, thank you. Yeah, I thank you so much that you watch my tutorials like this. Even if you scan to the end, you know, you can pick up a few little ideas, right? I love long videos, so, you know, mine seem to be, I try to keep them under an hour though. If you watched that, I'm trying to keep it under an hour. So I die cut my friends out of the same cardstock as the actual folded piece that I have there, my outside card, the one that I'm using as the base. I did this 3 high, putting the glue. I didn't use any type of glue runner behind it. I wanted to put the Nouveau glue on there. I didn't want to deal with, it's so fine, the font on this is so fine, I didn't want to deal with any sticky elements. The liquid glue is easy to come off with a micro brush, but if I ran that through my Xyron you know, I could get sticky issues I had to deal with. So here we go. We're going to do the inside of the card, finish it up. I think you'll really like it. So I'm putting the last, just dots, putting the third friends on top. Then I'm going to put the glaze on it. I'm going to get ahead of myself here, which is nice, you know, it's easy to do. And then, believe it or not, I took out some of my little fluffy stuff there. I'm right on it tonight, aren't I, with the names of the products I'm using, but it's the Ultra Fine Flower Soft Raspberry Fizz. And it's ultra fine red, white, and all different kinds of pinks. I poured it with my fingers over top of the friends once the glaze was on there, just to get some sparkle of all the colors in the tree. It was actually every color that's in that tree we made up there is in that Raspberry Fizz Flower Soft. And it's the ultra fine. Love it. I'm going to do the hearts in the exact order that I like to do my reds. I'm just seating it down. My R08 I started out with, and then my R37. I'm going to go just around those little spots. You know, I like to make it look like it's got that curve. When you go with the darks, don't go right to the edge. You don't want to risk bleeding. And I tell you what, I was riding on the edge with this one. Then I went back with my R08 and I wanted to get the lines out just in the middle. Didn't want to take out any of the saturation. Then I'll add my E09 so that the 9 shows you it's a rich, rich color. It's very vibrant. The value in shade is beautifully dark. And then I'm going to add it to the top one, and I'm not going to put any glaze on this. Then I go to my R59 just to give it that little bit of extra, add it to all the flowers that are in the image, that are in the actual stamp. I'll go back with the R08. So, you know, you have beautiful color range here. It's nice and deep. But, you know, it's light in saturation, but that's okay. The value's nice. The shade, the darkness is beautiful for me. And I go back and forth until you can't see any lines, and I get that beautiful light feature on the right side and the deep, deep tone to make it look like it's actually a sphere. I love it. I just love working with it. Doesn't matter how much time it takes for me. I just work away. So there's my favorite red combo. The 08, the 09, or the E08. I went to the earth tone with the 08. And yeah, that's the balloons right there. And then I decided instead of going black on that upper left balloon, I'm going to go with white. And then I just add a little bit of the little curves and the dots. I went black and white. But I'll show you what I added on here. It was the Nouveau white. I got out my Nouveau white, and when this was dry, see the comparison how it turns pink? That's only because I didn't wait for it to dry. The ink is still wet. For extra care, you want to wait till it dries. So I went around the friends, like I said before, with the Nouveau Crystal Glaze. I kept my little wee dots, my dots and tittles. I kept them on the side so that I had 4 of them actually, because I did die cut another one, but it would have been too high. So yeah, I kept it to 3 high instead of 4. And there you have it. I just took my long sewing pin to make the holes clear, that the Nouveau glue wasn't going to dry in those little round spots. And we're going to seat that down. Oh, here's the beautiful Ultra Fine Flower Soft Raspberry Fizz, all in one word. It's right in front of me so I could read it nice and fast. The glaze is going to be on the prominent features I want to stand out, like the bow, the dresses, just the flowers on the left, and I'm going to use the Wink Estella Clear on other spots of the dress so it sparkles. Then I'm going to make sure I put extra lines in their hair. I like their hair a little more lined. If you see the actual stamp, it only has a few lines. and I like to add them so it's thicker. And we're going to bend the friends around. We're not going to have it straight, of course not. We have the girls straight, so the third element will be curved. Then I put the black eyes on there with the Nouveau black. I'm really excited, but it's missing something. It's just too plain around the edges. So I do my 3 dots in a line with my Copic multi-liner. And this one that I'm using, actually, it's a precision pen, and it's a 0.8, I think it is. And I'm going to make in black, American Crafts Precision Pen 08. And I'm going to do my 3 dots in a line. I didn't bother with the line down where the stamp actually stamped a line. I just went around trying to make sure that they were even and as close to the edge as possible in a straight line. You know, that's what I do. And really happy with it now once the friends gets glued on there. And I use the Nouveau glue for that. And there you have it. There's the front. I mean, that's a nice, clean, and simple card, isn't it? And now, now we're going to go. My goal is to make clean and simple cards. And this is, you know, I have to slowly work my way down to a clean and simple card. And I was really pleased with this one. And it's smaller than most of my cards. And the inside doesn't have a lot of coloring features in it, right? So it's kind of just like, okay, and I can sign it and put a little, what I do is I take a Post-it and I put it on the top if I want to write anything. And then I sign the actual card sentiment, like your friend Carol, or, you know, whatever sentiment I want to write on the actual bottom base. But then I'll write my note on a sticky note on the top. So that's just a little tidbit. I'm making sure I get all of the glue out from putting it down. Then my little 4 dots I'm going to put on there, pile them high. And I'm super duper satisfied with the inside. Nothing over the top. I wanted the red to stand out. Yes, that's my ortho wax. I put orthodontic wax on the end of my pick. It's super duper sticky and you'll never lose it. It fits under the cap perfectly. And now I'll just make sure I can get some of the glue out. It was sticking. I must have came back to put the dots on at a later time. And there you have it, my friends. I am really pleased with my approach of a clean and simple card. Clean and simple to me means that I don't know what it means to me. It's clean. I make sure nothing gets on it. And it's reasonably simple. Just a stamped image. I don't know. It took me a day to make. It's clean and simple and time consuming. How's that? Well, this is just a fun card for me. Thank you so much for stopping by. I put the Nouveau white glue on everything I wanted to stand out. Nice and shiny white. And this is it, my friends. This is my clean and simple card. It's my fun card. I don't know if it's clean and simple. Probably isn't to anybody out there. I think it's just a nice card. I made an envelope to go with it, everybody. I will have that voiceover done tomorrow morning for you, but I showed, look at that close up. I showed you the picture. I didn't put any Nouveau or nothing shiny on the hearts. I wanted the Copic element to show up. Have a blessed, blessed week. I will see you tomorrow on the envelope tutorial. I left a picture of the envelope in my pictures, and I will see you on the next tutorial. Do take care, everybody. Thank you so, so much for joining me.